of course, of the month of September. That means the months are running down. But the question you should be asking yourself each and every day a new day comes in is that, have you done anything? What have you done also really so far in these days that have gone by? These are things where you need to make assessment of yourself and to make sure that you are not also left out, because if at all you're going to be left out, you may not be in position to catch up with also the remaining days. That may also be very much bad for you at the end of the day. That's why we are saying we must jubilate the running days as well, but it must also worry us if at all we are not doing anything sensible in there. At the end of the day, that may be very much constructive for us. And that's why I want to take this opportunity now to welcome you on board. From wherever you are watching us from, it could be in Uganda and outside Uganda. All in all, I say welcome aboard. And this is the beauty of West Nile TV. If you're told you're worried that you may be leaving the country where the signals may not be reaching there, we are still saying you may watch us anytime you want, if at all you wish to do so. And that's where you can be able to access us online across all our social media platforms. And for those who want to be part of the KOKOLIRIKO live show, then there's no need for you to be worried of anything, because all you need to do is to ensure that you have a connection to the internet, which will directly guarantee you to watch West Nile TV. And all you need to do is have a device that is fully connected to the internet and be in position to watch West Nile TV everywhere, anytime, and in any part of the world. That is the beauty of West Nile TV. And that's one thing also which I want to take this opportunity now. That's straight to begin of our discussions, where we were able to also really see National Teachers College Muni hosting officials from Uganda Communications Commission, and to have a brilliant tech that is to train the teachers on also really what we call ICT. And these were teachers from primary and secondary school, and plus many other stakeholders who are trained also in ICT related information. That is also to help them improve on their studies, and also teaching also learners in there. That's one thing also which we did see. And remember, this information they are getting, the teachers are getting, is actually going to help them in training the learners first of all, and training at teachers as well. Because if you look at teachers, more so the science teachers, you realize that equipping them with the ICT skills is actually very much important. Look at the competence-based learning today. Many of it also really, I find it very difficult to teach the learners, because you may not be in position to just wait for the classroom teaching. I was able to also really see my young ones in primary learning through online. That is something which we were able to also really see some time back, where we had COVID-19. Our learners were able to continue with studies, whereas the learners who had not had themselves equipped with ICT were left home. The teachers who had not also who had no skills in ICT could not be able to teach the learners, and that is how unfair and unfortunate the learners missed. And that is something which at the end of the day, which I feel I need to keep you also reminded of. And we did see this taking place at National Teachers College Muni, where the principal of the school also thanked the participants for their positive response, and for that also called government for what we call support in also the ICT sector at the college. And that is something also which we feel we need to also talk about, because if you look at ICT without the equipment, then definitely you may not be in position to exercise what you learn. Just imagine a scenario where you have the skills, but you don't have where to practice the skills. Then that is very, very unfortunate, and something which I must say I could leave you out to suffer. And that's why we're saying, if at all government, first of all, lessens the cost on this ICT equipment, that would be quite well. And many people would have access to these computers, access to smartphones, because sometimes, much as we are talking about the numbers of people with smartphones increasing, what about those who still do not have access to smartphones because of poverty? Because others may be out there just because they do not have the money. And that means they are going to be left out. And we did see one of the participants who also attended the training also really expressed a lot. And one of these things now we also really want to extend to them is that they need to continue using this message. They should not also really keep that message to themselves in there. Where we did see Vunia Caroline Dichiru, the manager, technical monitoring, used to encourage the stakeholders to use the ICT communications for betterment of their schools in there. And that is a message we had from UCC. And at the end of the day, we expect people to utilize this message, because we not expect you now to go back and still got the same. You have also already been part of this training, which was commenced yesterday. I do understand that we will be running for 5 days, meaning these 5 days, concentrate, get the necessary skills, go back and practice. That would be the only way to go. And at the end of the day, we would also really want to see people benefiting from these skills, because we don't want to see you out there be left out without the skills. Because if at all you're not going to practicing the skills, then that will be very, very much unfair. Government resources which have been poured into you will just go into waste, and that will be very, very much bad. Now, Salim Kumaket, the Resident City Commissioner for Rural City, encouraged the teachers to upgrade since the current world is dynamic. And remember, under the new teacher policy, all the teachers are required to be degree holders at least. Even if you're going to teach nursery, you are required to be a degree holder. But most of the teachers are still diploma holders. I do understand most of them are still diploma holders, and with the meager salaries plus the burden of other resources and responsibilities, they find it very much difficult. Many of them, if you interact with them, they complain that this pressure is just too much. Let government come out and support them to upgrade. That will be very much good for them. But how do we also really help upgrade you then where you're not necessarily also really interesting yourself to upgrade? Look at when they were introducing this new curriculum, what they call competence-based. Many teachers who had been used to the old curriculum found it difficult to adopt this new technology, to adopt this new curriculum. But slowly today, many of them are getting to accept it. And that means continuous sensitization is very much key. And government needs to continue calling upon these teachers to ensure going for upgrades. Then that would be quite well. Because if at all they're not upgrading, many of them could be left out in there, and that would also be very much unfair for them in there. Now, Raymond Ombere, the principal education officer, said also the training will provide them with opportunities to do research and also get well versed with the current trend of education system. And this is actually reality. Look at also a scenario where you can't be able to solely carry on research. Today, you may not be able to be in position to move the libraries and read those huge chunk of books. All you need to do is have connection to the internet, sit at the comfort of your home, search the book you want, because most of these books are now online, and you've been positioned to get whatever thing you need, and with ease. In that means embracing technology for the teachers is actually very, very much important. And my appeal to all the teachers out there is that let them get interested in embracing ICT, because if at all they're not embracing ICT, then that would be very much bad for them at the end of the day. We may see people not also embracing ICT, which will also make them lag behind, and which would also be very much unfair in there. Now, Derek, a teacher from Nile High Secondary School, calls for government in this initiative to support also them also with ICT, and thank government actually for also really making sure that they're trained. And this is actually what we need. If at all somebody gives an opportunity, find heart in your heart, find space in your heart to say thank you. This is the way to go, and do not also keep this knowledge to yourself. Because I believe out of the thousands and thousands, you could be very few selected out of these schools, and that is where we now expect you to go back and practice and share this knowledge that you have gotten this training with the rest of your colleagues in the schools. As in the staff rooms, get your laptops, get your computers. Find those teachers whom you know do not have knowledge of ICT, express with them, teach them, train them. That is the way we have to go when if at all we want to see changes in our schools, but where we want to keep the knowledge to ourselves, and then that would be very much unfair. That would be very much bad for us as well in there. And that's one thing also which we feel must also be keenly given attention to by our teachers and our rest of our learners in there. Because if you look at teachers, today teachers are actually addressed as the biggest producers of the rest of the qualifications. Because if you look at a teacher, whether you like it or not, be it an engineer, be it a UPDF soldier, be it a medical personnel, you are trained by a teacher. It is a teacher who models you. It is a teacher who makes you to be who you are. That is why I am a person who is of the view that we must support the education sector. We must also enhance the salaries of teachers. We must enhance the welfare of the teachers at all times, so that we make the teachers also really be better people. And that's one thing also that at the end of the day, that may attract many people to become teachers. Today you hardly find people want to become teachers because of the welfare of teachers also, which is said to be still very much low. And unlike the science teachers, whose salaries have been enhanced, the arts teachers still continue to cry. But you cannot also live in a world of scientists without humanities. That's where I find it wrong with government. Because if you look at humanities, where arts fall, this is actually where you find lawyers, this is where you find teachers themselves, this is where you find very many people, many other also really careers in there. But if at all we are leaving them out, that is quite wrong, quite unfair at the moment. And that's one thing which at the end of the day I feel government also needs to also come up and address. Because if at all we're not addressing that concern of also arts teachers, then that is where it will be very much wrong. It may be very much bad at the end of the day, because if you look at these ICT teachers themselves, these fall under humanities, what we call the arts teachers. Why don't we also empower them as well? That is where I want to also call upon government to also look into this keenly, so that all the teachers are at the same level. And I want to see also the level where the arts teachers are the same as the science teachers, much as we want to promote sciences in this country, because the president's vision and the government's vision is to improve sciences in this country. Because if you look at sciences, this is where we find innovations, this is where we find doctors. Yes, we need them, but we also need humanities as well. And that is where you will find journalists already coming up. And if at all we enhance the salaries of the arts teachers, then more journalists also will be coming out as also trained people. And that will be the way to go, because we want to see many lawyers, many judges, many police officers be trained by the humanities. And that's one thing also really which at the end of the day will be very much good for this government to also really have a look into, so that also really nobody is left out. I mean, nobody should be left out in this generation, where I believe, if at all, we empowered all, then that would be quite good for the government and other stakeholders as well in there. In this training, over 300 primary and secondary teachers, we are trained also with ICT skills. That's at National Teachers College, Muni, where they are benefiting from a 10 days training, which shall climax on Friday 13th. And it was also since 2012. And also when we installed a construction of ICT lab, we are done at National Teachers College, which today is hosting, of course, this training. And that's where we're going to be putting that discussion aside. More details to that will be coming in our subsequent news programs of Eolaza Nilecast, of Eolaza Nilecast, and of course Lembangea also in the due course of the day in there. And shortly after this, we shall be having, of course, the Eolaza news bulletin with Vota Emmanuel, where more details, this information will be coming. And that's one thing also which I feel you also really should be also interested in. And that's why we're going to be discussing aside. And now talking about the issue of power. Today, as we are having power, many people will not also be understanding that we are connecting the national grid just because they have not seen also really the impact. But I can confirm to you, in Greater Nebi, now businesses are boosting. What kind of business am I talking about here? I mean businesses that require electricity. The saloon operators are jubilating. The welders celebrating. Wonderful. And many other businesses are now thriving just because of also what we call the stable electricity, which also really got us connected to this year. Thank the government and also the other stakeholders out there for pressurizing to ensure that we now have the power. And that is one thing also really where we must take advantage of this. And businesses should not only thrive in Greater Nebi. I also want to see the people of other sub-regions and also the other parts also really of West Nile improving their livelihoods. Not only West Nile, the entire northern Uganda must be also really celebrating this national grid connection, because at the end of the day, that is one thing we have been praying for. And many times our MPs, our local leaders have been crying because they want power. Now that we have the power, what next? What should we do with this power? Is it only for lighting or for businesses? These are questions you out there should be asking yourself, because much as we are talking about power, but if at all we do not have the utilization capacity of this power, then we are just going to be putting it into waste. That would be very much bad. But we are saying people must take advantage of this available power. And at the end of the day, that is where we're going to be seeing our livelihoods improving. And that is also where each and every person will be in the money economy. And of course, that's where we're going to be posing a discussion for now. And later on also we shall be touching more in that discussion. But we are saying, as we are celebrating the power of national grid that is from Karuma, we should ensure that at least it brings a tangible benefit for us. We should not only be singing and also jubilating that we now have power. We're not also celebrating it by doing what is expected out of us. And that's where we're going to be taking a short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV channel 477. And that is that times. And on 0073 on Zuku. And online, of course, on across all our socials on Facebook, where you can be able to watch us lively. YouTube also, you can be still able to watch us, and that's where we are going to be taking this short commercial break. My name is Farish Majid. We bounce back shortly. Hope you stay with us.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back to this short commercial break. Of course, we are back with the discussions, and earlier on we were talking about the issue of stable power boosting businesses in Greater Nebi. And the question I did pose to you is that what advantage are you utilizing this power for? And I mean you, the viewer. What have you done with this power? Or you're just jubilating that we have the national grid connection without necessarily having any impact of it on you? Because we need to also make sure that at least, as we're talking about the socio-economic transformation, then this power should be able to solely be a driver into that. And that means we need to make sure that our businesses actually benefit out of this power. But how are we going to be benefiting from this power when we do not understand what exactly we have to do with this power? Then that means for those who have been engaging in charcoal business, it is high time that you now start using electricity for doing your activities. This means for those who have been running also restaurants using charcoal and other wood fuel also in there, electricity is actually an alternative source of energy Then it goes back to government, first of all, to reduce on the price of electricity, because you cannot be buying a unit at 1,000. This is actually a complaint many people are raising. And really, I feel if at all prices of electricity was reduced, this is my own opinion, then many people would embrace electricity as an alternative source of energy, that is to the wind fuel that we're talking about. Because look at also the prices of the unit. Sometimes with the charges, you find that many people are buying less units. And then how are they going to be embracing electricity for their activities as an alternative to the other forms of wood energy? That is where we're saying, if at all government, first of all, reduce the prices of this electricity, then many people would actually venture into businesses that would be able to bring them other money in there. And that's why we're going to be leaving the discussion aside and now looking at also some of the stories that we could talk about. And remember, more details also to this will be coming still in our subsequent news bulletin of Lembangea, Eolaza, and Nilecast. Of course, that is where I want to take this opportunity now to welcome you and still ask you to be part of these news bulletins, where you will be having more details of some of the stories that we are discussing here in those segments, where, of course, you will be having what we call comprehensive and detailed analysis of what continues to make rounds in the world of news in there. But we are going to leave that story aside and now talking about the trend of GBV. And remember, today many people are talking about gender-based violence. Many people will not also be understanding that gender-based violence cuts across, because as a man, I may be going through gender-based violence, both physically and emotionally, and all that is what we call gender-based violence. But in most cases, people think gender-based violence is domestic violence alone. Not really. There's a lot that falls under this category of gender-based violence. Child neglect is a form of gender-based violence. Discrimination still is a form of gender-based violence. Insults still fall under gender-based violence. And that's where we're saying today many people are going through gender-based violence silently without reporting these cases to police. And yet they need help. And the negative repercussions of that is what we have seen today happening, where people are killing each other, where others are committing suicide. That is still a form of gender-based violence. And recently we saw it happening with one of our national athletes who recently represented the country at the Paris Olympics. This is the names of Cheptegei. What happened to her in Kenya? That is still a form of gender-based violence, which also we talk about. But unfortunately, both have already lost their lives. And yesterday, the alleged killer of the Ugandan athlete also passed on. And that is very unfortunate. And that is one thing also which we feel where things are not moving. Let's try in space and still find other lovers. And that is why today you realize, because of gender-based violence and because of love, people can hurt without gender-based violence. And that's why today they're saying, if two people are fighting, more so people in love are fighting, do not engage yourself in there. Really, I'm saying that statement is very wrong, because many people today feel very, very, very hard to advise two couples who are fighting, because they feel after them fighting, you don't know what they're going to be doing next. You find the man and the husband fighting in the morning, but after a month, the lady is pregnant. These are questions as to why sometimes people feel it is very difficult to advise people who are in love. We have scenarios where you advise a person, you advise a couple, only for these people to go and report to their husbands when they're in their good times that this so-and-so told me this. But I'm saying we shouldn't give up on the issues of fighting gender-based violence, because if you look at gender-based violence today, you realize that it is actually disintegrating our society furthermore, because many of the people are now divided. You find families where the husband is not around. The children are the ones who suffer most. And this is why we're saying gender-based violence should actually be kicked out. And that's why today we have what we call the orange days, what we call also the days in the year to also make sure that issues of gender-based violence are talked. We have a whole week where a whole campaign is being run against gender-based violence. And today in Arua City and Western at large, at least, the good news is that the cases are dropping due to continuous sensitization from cultural leaders, religious leaders, police, teachers, to mention and all. And that's where we're saying it is actually good. And we must continuously continue to to talk to people about the device of gender-based violence. Because if at all we are not talking about gender-based violence, then you will be able to know the negative repercussions. Death is there because you have seen people's faces being deformed. Yesterday, I must say, I was at the Child and Family Protection Unit after a long period of time. I took a visit to see what is happening in there. Definitely you realize that the gender-based violence we are talking about today, most domestic violence has done a lot where people's faces are being deformed today, where people's eyes are being boxed. People have been left toothless. We have seen all these scenarios, and all that is gender-based because things have been cut. These are all forms of gender-based violence, which are really very much bad, and something which I feel at the end of the day we should be able to talk about. Because if you look at gender-based violence, then you realize that also the statistics also nationally may be alarming, but we're saying we should not be able to give up on the fight against gender-based violence. Because to fight gender-based violence, I must say, it requires efforts from me and you. We must continue indeed talking about gender-based violence. Because if at all we're not talking about gender-based violence, then it is still our families that will still be feeling the negative repercussions of this vice. And the vice, which I must say, is slowly but surely eating up our communities. And that's why we're saying gender-based violence is actually something which we should be able to give up keen attention to. Because if at all, as families, we are fighting, and then it is the children who suffer the most. Because usually we have a saying that when two elephants are fighting, it is the grass that suffers. And under gender-based violence, most especially domestic violence, when the families are divided, then the children are left in the middle to suffer. We have scenarios where when this family is also really disintegrate, either the husband or the wife does not allow the child to meet either of their spouses. And that is quite wrong. Yet when you produce children, it is you produce children during happiness. And really when things go bad, it is the children who suffer most. And that's why we're saying gender-based violence is still with us. And we must join hands and now end this vice. And if at all you're going through a lot, by the way, it's quite simple to end gender-based violence. If at all you're going through a lot, find people whom you can trust in, people whom you can confide in, call them, talk to them, talk to them about gender-based violence. And for the Muslims, if at all you're officially married, these are also what we call the witnesses in your weddings are actually people whom you could be able to solely call upon during bad times, so that they can be able to solely foster unity amongst you in there. And that's why we also really say religious leaders must do a great job. And of course, they're doing a tremendous job in ending this vice of GBV in our society. And today they continue preaching about gender-based violence, and that's good. But we are saying the preaching about gender-based violence should continue, because we want to see gender-based violence ending. Because if you look at gender-based violence, surely you realize that the statistics are still alarming. And many people have lost their lives. And I was earlier on able to give you an example of this Ugandan lady who died in Kenya, the athlete. This is still a form of gender-based violence against the rights of people in there. And that's why we're saying men as well go through gender-based violence. Today you realize a lot of men are silently but surely going through gender-based violence, where women have denied them food, where women have beaten them, but they cannot report anywhere. All in all, I'm saying that is still a form of gender-based violence that we should be able to solely avoid in our societies. And that's where we shall be having more details into that, where the statistics solely will be showing to you in the month of September how many cases have so being reported, August how many, June how many, July. That detail will be coming through also in our subsequent news bulletins in there. But for now, we are going to put in a discussion to GBV aside, and now to look at also the statistics of some of the stories happening nationally. You'll be able to realize a lot of issues still continue to happen. That is in the world of current affairs. And talking about current affairs, politics, of course, is not left out in there. And we're able to see President Yoweri Museveni launching also what we call the inaugural Security Expo of this year. And that is something we did see also happening in the way. President Yoweri Museveni officially launched the first ever Kampala Defense and Security Expo 2004, an event organized also by the Ministry of Defense in collaboration with Uganda Post Defense Forces. And the expo also was dedicated to the memory of the late General Aronda Nyakairima, who also is the former Chief of Defense Forces. and the Minister for Internal Affairs, who died in 2015. And remember, in 2015, that is when we lost also really the fallen general in there. That's something we did see happening, and the expo had also really taken place. That's also really we did see it taking place. That's also really at Speaker Nyonyo, where it brought together a number of key stakeholders from the military, defense contractors, and security officials. And the president welcomed also the high-profile delegation, which included the current CDF, that is General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who is part of the initiative, and people who also attended this meeting as well. And we did see also State House Minister for Veteran Affairs, Gudo Leru, who is also the Minister of Defense in there, and alongside many other top UPDF officials to be part of this inaugural what we call Security Expo. And we did see also, of course, people showing what they have, and we were able to see the prisons also being part of this year's Expo, where they were able to suddenly show what they have. And that is quite interesting, because we want to see the security agencies also really being part of this. And Uganda Police, of course, was also really able to also really be part of this year's Expo, where we were able to see them also really showcase cars. These are the cars used mostly during routes. And that's something we didn't see happening, where they were able to suddenly show what they have. And now during the event, Museveni toured several stalls, showcasing a wide array of defense and security equipment, many of which were also presented by the National Enterprise Corporation, which is NEC, which is actually one of those entities play a great role under Ministry of Defense. And now the commercial arm of the UPDF also today does a lot, and NEC also really has played a vital role in developing what we call, of course, with participants displaying innovations that enhance nations' self-reliance in defense production. And today, most of our activities are actually being produced locally in there. That means innovations have been promoted under the UPDF, and that is why in the recent recruitment, encouragement was put towards sciences. And those who had completed Senior 6, we actually recruited into the UPDF, and that means we need to also ensure that science is actually promoted in our learners, amongst our learners in there. And as parents watching us right now, we should send our children to school and encourage them to study sciences, which would be very much good for them in there. Now the NEC has played a vital role in terms of building capabilities of our UPDF soldiers, and we did see also that also being also addressed before the president. President also highlighted Uganda's progress in industrializing what we call the defense sector, citing the work done by the UPDF and the NEC to advance the military's ability to produce military equipment locally in there. Today we are able to see the UPDF producing what we call the cars for the defense forces and helicopters as well. We are able to also see presidents from other nations coming to Uganda and see what we are doing. That means our UPDF army is doing a tremendous job. That goes also to them. We must also appreciate them, kudos to them. And of course, we want to see them do more. And that's where we need to also come up and also be the supplier of their countries. And that would be quite good for us. And now the president also highlighted Uganda's progress in terms of industrializing, and he also noted that this will reduce reliance on foreign suppliers and create jobs in Uganda, strengthening the country's economy. Because if you look at the manufacturers of this equipment, these are going to be produced locally here by our sons and daughters. And that is actually where many people are being created, also employment opportunities. And that means during the recent recruitment, many of these people who are scientists will actually find themselves working also really in these factories that are producing the military equipment in this country. That is where we are saying today we need to support the efforts of the UPDF in terms of making our country better. That means if at all they are doing a tremendous job, we have to clap hands for them. And that's one thing also which we feel we must also really acknowledge UPDF towards, because they have really done a tremendous job. And we need to see these factories be established across the entire country, where opportunities shouldn't only be limited to the UPDF soldiers, but of course, civilians as well need to be also given such opportunities. And that means if at all UPDF establishes regional factories, that would be quite well. And that would also increase employment opportunities for the locals and the soldiers as well, because we need to also make sure the civilians also as well benefit from these factories. Because civilians may not be in position to also join the army, but they would want to also be part of this initiative. And that means government and the through the UPDF also needs to come up and also train the civilians, also have the civilians also be part of such initiatives to benefit from also the training and also these factories that would be a blessing for them. And now the 2024 Expo was a tribute also to the late General, that's Aronda Nyakairima, who was Uganda's longest serving Chief of Defense Forces, having held the position also for 10 years. And General Aronda distinguished himself as a military leader and played a crucial role in, of course, building capacities of the UPDF, and that is where today he is recognized until that's also until where he died, and this was in 2015. His efforts remained acknowledged, and that means his legacy in strengthening Uganda's infrastructure and his contribution to the national security were praised during the event. And that means to those serving officers, if you want to have such recognitions by the time you're gone, because we're not going to be in this world for life, then you should be having that human heart. You should be knowing that you are indeed a person, and a person who deserves also to do good, because if you do good, then that's definitely where you are going to be also improving on your livelihood. And that's why we're going to be saying, learn from such behaviors, and that will be quite good for you. And now the Kampala Defense and Security Expo is to become what we call an annual event that will not only commemorate General Aronda Nyakarima's also activities, but also to serve as a platform for defense and security stakeholders to share knowledge, innovations, and advancements. That means we are going to be seeing officials from the different security sister forces be brought together, where prisons, Uganda Police, Uganda Wildlife Authority officials will be brought together and to make sure that they are part of what we call the National Security Expo. And that will be quite good for them to also really share knowledge and also build connections. Now the Expo runs for 10 days with various exhibitions and forums played, offering an opportunity that is for entities to interact, explore partnerships, and as well as share best practices in modern security and defense management. And that is one thing which I feel I must also remind you of. And in this same initiative, Museveni also went on to war on one UPDF and leadership also against financial initiatives as the primary motivation for soldiers in the country. And this is one of the messages that the president actually passed during this inaugural Security Expo. And he added that such approach could weaken also the effectiveness and discipline amongst the forces. And if at all we talk about issues of monetarizing, today many people do not, actual civilians, it's quite worse with civilians who do not want to sit for meetings without sitting allowances. Quite absurd, where issues also really of national importance can be discussed. People do not want to come, and the question where you always invite, the first question people are going to be asking you is that, do they have refunds? Very much unfortunate today in the world where we are living, and I feel government needs to come out and address these issues, and where also the stakeholders and other officials where these issues also affect them must come up and also talk about the issue of mindset. And now speaking during the inaugural General Aronda Nyakarimu Memorial Lecture at Munyonyo, President Museveni also highlighted that defense requires more than just financial rewards, stressing that the importance of moral patriotism, a sense of duty, is actually what matters for these people to also serve the country with a lot of also integrity in there. That's one thing also which I feel must also be given keen interest and keen attention to as we get move on with the show. And now the defense side of the station in Somalia, where despite having about 10,000 soldiers, the country remains fragile, and according to Museveni, Somali soldiers are heavily reliant on allowances, and a situation that has created challenges in managing also their forces and ensuring commitment to their duties. That means if at all our soldiers are minding very much on their welfare, that would be quite very much bad for them. And that is something which at the end of the day that may not be well. And that means President Museveni has actually called upon the soldiers not to be minding of their welfares only, but let them mind of also serving the nations in there. And that's one thing also where we did see Museveni's remarks coming at a time when there is growing public concern about welfare of security forces in Uganda, with some members of the military also really expressing concerns over the adequacy of their pay and benefits as well in there. Now the president's comments suggest a shift in focus also really towards long-term sustainable welfare situations rather than temporary financial rewards. And now the memorial also lecture was held in honor of the late General Aronda Nyakarimu, who served as the Chief of Defense Forces until the time he passed on in 2015. And now General Nyakarimu was also remembered for playing a pivotal role in also modernizing the UPDF and ensuring internal security during his tenure, and that is why today he is being recognized. And this should be able to go to the rest of the serving generals and the other soldiers who are into these forces to also pick a leaf out from, so that by the time they are gone, people should be in position to recognize them, and that would be a reason as to why they will be recognized. And that's why we're going to leave the discussion aside with. KCCA court clears loop activist Buwembo is another story that we are seeing in the past this morning, where the Kampala Capital City Authority Magistrate Court, under the Grade 1 Magistrate also Rehema Nasozi has dropped all charges levied against an activist that was also a member of the National Platform Party in the names of Habib Buwembo, and Buwembo was accused of malicious publication or against the Speaker of Parliament, that's right, Honorable Anita Mong, by calling her a Karamajong and also really iron sheet thief, and that's something we did see also happening in there. Now the Grade 1 Magistrate Court has also already ruled that so that after failure of state to produce any witnesses in court against Buwembo, Buwembo has now been set free. And now Buwembo recently was arrested and detained at Luzira government prison for a month and charged also with malicious publication, but later was released on a bail of 3 million and 10 million, also Ugandan non-cash bail, and 2 of his sureties were as well as granted the non-cash bail of 10 million. Now speaking to the media shortly after the court hearing, he says through his lawyer, Ronald Samuel from Masiko, Wanda and Alinda Advocates is going to file a civil suit against the Speaker of Parliament. That's also for malicious arrest, defamation, and all losses and damages incurred in this case. That means for him, he is not stopping here, and Buwembo is now threatening to go back to court because he was arrested and detained for about a month for statement, that is for calling Anita Mong as an iron sheet thief. And that's something also which at the end of the day is keeping many people in prisons. And really, is it time? Is it also time for government to bow down to the pressure of the young people who want to march to Parliament? Because many of them are marching towards Parliament because of the issues pertaining to corruption in this country, and many of them allege that this country has corruption. And who exactly are the promoters of this corruption? It is the leaders. And how can they also fight the vice of corruption in this country to ensure that money that is initially supposed to go to where it's supposed to go to riches without necessarily people removing their shares on the way? Because many times, if at all government is to allocate money towards some certain initiatives, the money does not reach there as it is planned. In the middle, you find people removing the money, and you find the money disappearing. So at the end of the day, that is where shoddy works comes in. And that is one thing also which at the end of the day, where people do not have trust in the leaders. But as leaders, how can we ensure that the issues of corruption do not also persist? And that's why today we are seeing a number of young people also holding protests and also holding campaigns against certain leaders in this country, where today they have also termed others to be called thieves. How do we make sure that such people do not get arrested? And I feel if at all government gave a listening ear to such concerns, then that would be quite well. And that's what one thing also at the end of the day we'll see corruption now be kicked out. Because if it is being promoted by the leaders themselves, then we may not be in position to see this vice be eradicated. But how can we ensure that corruption is actually kicked out of this country and it's eradicated? That is where we must join hands and also kick this vice out. And to kick it is quite simple. We must join hands and ensure that those who are corrupt are first of all reported to police. And also the IGG, which is also having regional centers. And that means if at all any leader is involved in corruption and you're aware about the corruption, do not sit down. Have it in mind that this corruption is affecting all of us. And that was something at the end of the day that we will be able to sort of make sure we move on from corruption, because corruption is actually one of those biggest contributors in also affecting the country in moving towards what we call the middle income status. And that is one thing which at the end of the day where we must champion the fight against corruption. And that's one thing also where we must also ask upon the young people to ensure they use the right channels in terms of fighting corruption. The march to Parliament may not be in position to solve anything, and calling the Speaker that's a thief may not also be in position, and that's where we must join hands. We must use better alternatives and when we are demonstrating, and I feel the government also needs to come not to fight to sabotage these protests, because the young people who maybe carrying these protests could be having a point, and that's where we should be able to allow them go on with these protests, but rather guide them when they are doing this also protests. And that's something which at the end of the day I feel government should ensure doing, and that's where we are going to be summarizing our first hour, and we are already into the hour of 8 o'clock, and after 8 o'clock we are going to be also having another 1 hour where we are still going to be discussing with you after 9 o'clock, and after 9 o'clock that's when I will be saying I'm out until tomorrow. But already we're in the middle of the week, and that means you should be asking yourself, what have you done so far? Because over the weekend, we are likely to see our learners returning back to school, more so those who are in boarding sections, and on Monday for those day scholars, still they will be reporting back to school, and the pressure should be mounting on the parents at this moment. But we are saying all in all, we must ensure that we give the learners the best also when they're going to school. And that's where we're going to be taking a short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV channel 477. That's on StarTimes and on 0073 on Zuku and online across all our social media platforms. We take a short commercial break and we bounce back with more stories.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to StarTimes.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Okay, welcome back from that short commercial break. We are back with the KOKOLIRIKO live show, and of course, 9 o'clock remains our final destination, and that's where we are going to be stopping and, of course, giving the news way for the newsroom that's of AOLers that also come through and let you know what is happening in the world of news, and that's where we are going to be also really saying goodbye for today. And that's one thing also which I feel at the end of the day must also really be reminded you of. And remember, so many stories, of course, continue to happen, and we shall be also giving you in this hour of the show, and many things are still continue to happen. And earlier on I was talking about where court was able to also really clear one of the news activists against the crime also really of calling the Speaker of Parliament a thief in there. Now a case court under grade 1 magistrate has now freed the man. That means he is a free person after also really being arrested for a month in there, and still within the umbrella body, and also and still also under the umbrella camp. We are seeing also Kyagulanyi urging the NUP supporters to document also the police brutality after the Bulindo incident, and that's something also which we did see happening. And remember, recently at Bulindo, we were able to also see police officers allegedly also tear gassing, and also tear gassing also this legislator also this former legislator also in there after also having a small scuffle. And that's something we did see, where the president of the National Platform Party, Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, has now asked party supporters to shun human rights abuses by security operatives also, and to use their phones to document police brutality against Ugandans. And now Kyagulanyi's call follows the recent troubles with the police in Bulindo and Kira municipality, which left him injured and moving also using clashes. And that's something also which we are now seeing. And he has now asked his supporters to always be vigilant to document whatever is to happen to him, first of all, and to the supporters, as well as everybody in there through their smartphones. And remember, the incident in Bulindo actually left many people scared. And now there have been also inconsistencies by the police accounts on what really happened, and that's why Kyagulanyi is actually calling, because police had also information that Kyagulanyi was actually knocked using the door of his car as he was trying to flee away from police officers. And that's something which many people also raised questions about. And now also there's the consensus also they have now made Kyagulanyi to ask his supporters to always document what is happening. That's for future reference. However, several leaders and NUP supporters continue now to visit the NUP president, Robert Kyagulanyi, to comfort him at his home in Magere in there. And that's something where we are going to be leaving that discussion aside with. And still within NUP now, Kira NUP leaders boycott urban program launch is still another story that we are seeing right now in the papers, where Kira municipality's National Platform Party supporters and leaders have opted to boycott the launch of the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Area Urban Development Program, where President Museveni also was expected to be the chief guest. And that's something also which at the end of the day is quite wrong, because I feel this is bringing development. Don't we need development? And now the decision already comes in the wake of recent tensions surrounding the treatment of NUP also leaders. And could it be defiance? Could it be also really revenge? Definitely, that is something I don't know. But particularly following an incident involving prominent figure, that is Robert Kyagulanyi, who was reportedly also really attacked by police as he left his home, also the home of NUP lawyer, that's George Musisi, to also really move, that is towards also his home in there. He was tear gassed, and the canister actually left him injured in there. Now the NUP caucus also, which consists of a significant portion of opposition leadership within Kira Municipality Council, along Democratic Party already and Forum for Democratic Change Alternatives, decided that the event also could be perceived as a betrayal of their party's also principles, and that's why they shunned to attend this launch of the urban program also in there. Now with NUP also holding a majority in the council, with absence also from the launch, underscores the growing rift between the opposition and the ruling government of the NRM in there. And now the GKMA Urban Development Program, which encompasses that's 440.19 kilometers of roads, the construction, of course, of 19 markets and 2 slaughter areas, is set to approximately cost, that is $566 million US dollars, not only Ugandan shillings, but US dollars in there. And now the ambitious project is funded by the World Bank, with Ugandan government responsible for what we call replying the US dollars of 48 million total cost in there. And now it's also close to the NUP leadership indicate that the decision to boycott was led by Kira Municipality Mayor Mutebi Julius and his fellow NUP councillors, and they expressed concerns that attending also Museveni's function could be interpreted also as a defection. That's the ruling government of NRM. And furthermore, there were fears also of police harassment, with councillors believing they would be given also, they will not be given a fair opportunity to voice their opinions at the event. That is why now they chose not to be part of this activity in there. Now the GKMA urban development aims to enhance infrastructure and urban resilience in greater Kampala areas, which includes, that is, key districts as Kampala, Mukono, and Wakiso. And however, we are able to also see the absence of Kiranup leaders at the launch highlights, of course, the ongoing political tensions and challenges, also fostering collaboration among various political factions in Uganda. That means today our opposition groups may not be in position to actually be in the same venue with ruling government also in there, and that's something also which we feel needs to be addressed. Because all in all, we are to serve the people, and where we are serving the poor without necessarily coming together to be together, that is where it will be a challenge in there. But we're saying, all in all, we must join hands and be part of several activities. That's where, if at all, we are disagreeing. We should be able to disagree under bad things, but if at all it is good things, for instance, development, I feel there's no need for disagreements. And that's where we're saying now the leaders and opposition, yes, much as the NRM government could not be doing certain things, when they do good things, we need to appreciate. And that means government also really needs to give open opportunity, because many of them could not be coming because they feel still their views will not be given keen attention. And that's why we expect during such gatherings, the leaders should be given chance to express their concerns, which concerns should not be taken for granted by the government. Let the government listen to these concerns, be it bad ones, but shift. Take the good ones and also go and do with them. But sometimes you find people are not given opportunity, and that's why they do not want to be part of such activities. And that is one thing also which at the end of the day leaves development and retards development of a particular region. And that's one thing also which I feel could be very much bad in there. Now, leaving that aside, let's head into the camp of DP, where a section of DP leaders are now calling upon for the resignation of the DP president, Norbert Mao, as the party will be celebrating the 70th anniversary. And very soon I will be calling one of the DP leaders in this region to also really come and explain why this is happening so. But now we are leaving that discussion aside, and I hope also really now the section of the DP leaders are calling upon for the resignation of this DP president. They definitely have to express why they are demanding. But now, according to also the people, they have said a lot. And now the Democratic Party, of course, is approaching towards this 70th anniversary, being a political party in Uganda. But for many, the party's legacy appears fragile, overshadowed also by internal divisions and questions of leadership. And once the powerhouse, DP now finds itself grappling with concerns over future under the leadership of Norbert Mao, as the party is present for the last 15 years. But then we are now seeing issues coming where some party members argue that DP has lost its way, and that is why they are now calling for the resignation of the party president. And critics believe that Mao's leadership, particularly in decision also to align with the ruling government of NRM, has further weakened the party, and that is one thing also which is making them feel more vulnerable in an increasing also competitive political landscape. And that's why they are calling for but will this man designate? And this is a whole minister and the Minister of Constitutional Affairs, and will the minister actually resign is something we do not know, but we are keenly following up on. And founded in 1954, DP was initially a beacon, that's for young Baganda Catholics, opposing the dominance that is of the Buganda Luchiko, the then decision-making also the body of Buganda. And DP's symbol also the whole reflected in its cultural roots and to fight also rights of ordinary Ugandans. And that is why today the party is actually calling upon for the resignation of the party president. Mao, however, defends his leadership, and DP has made progress under my leadership, and that is one thing Mao continues to say, and that's something also which we feel he should be also given a listening ear in towards India. Now, his supporters like DP Vice President Fred Mukasambide believe that the party's alignment with the NRM was a strategic move to facilitate dialogue also on Uganda's future. But for others, the deal with NRM also was a final blow, the agreement that killed the Democratic Party in there. That's according to one of the legislators, in the names of Richard Sebamala, who represents Bukoto Central in there, who feels very bad about this alignment with the ruling government also of NRM in there. Now the party's history is filled with moments of resilience, particularly under the leadership of Paul Semogere, who steered the Democratic Party also really through some of Uganda's most turbulent political times. And Semogere also really was the party leader until 1980, and when he handed over that to John Sebana Kizito in the year 2004, in 2006, sorry, and who further solidified DP standing in Buganda. And that is one thing also we did see leadership changing, but today we are seeing a lot of issues slowly coming up under this camp in here, and we are now talking about people calling for the resignation. And I will be also really asking one of the leaders in the names of Lemeriga Fadil, who is also the regional coordinator for Democratic Party, anytime from now to also really come and explain to us their stand of the Democratic Party on what they think is also needs to be done. Now, despite the criticism, Mao remains defiant and says he is committed to DP values, and that is why he is not also really going to be extending and also bowing at this pressure. And as the party prepares for the next chapter, all eyes will be on DP's ability to address its leadership vacuum and re-establishing itself as a formidable force in Ugandan politics. Will it also stand the test of time? Will DP continue to remain where they want to remain? Definitely, that is one thing also really which we feel we are going to be also really leaving that discussion aside with. And now remember, final preparations, that's for the ministers' barrier already out. And really, as a region, as a country, we are still mourning the demise of one of the legislators who also passed on last week. And barrier also preparations for the late minister, that's for State of Defense and Veteran Affairs, Sarah Mateke, are also in full swing at her father's home in Bungahe village, that is in Kisoro district, and she is actually a woman member of parliament for Kisoro district. And mourners continue to converge, and that's at the home of Dr. Filma Mateke, who has been also seen watching parliamentary proceedings, and that's something also which we feel is something also which we need to talk about, because we are still mourning the demise of this legislator who is actually representing the women of Kisoro in there. And now at Nyaka Bingo Primary School playgrounds, a mega tent is being created, that's for the barrier, and which is said to take place tomorrow, that is tomorrow. And that is one thing which I feel also really we need to also really talk about. And now Richard Ndiana, the mayor representing Kisoro municipality, who is also the committee member of the barrier, also says everything is set to ensure that they accord the legislator a decent burial in there. And remember, she died at the age of 50 years as a result of also the heart-related sicknesses in there. And that is one thing also which we feel we must also keep on giving update. And in case of any development related to this story still, we shall be coming on board to also let you know of what's happening. And now today, the body of the minister, Sarah Mateke, will be expected to be arriving, that's in Kisoro. And tomorrow will be when she will be laid to rest. That is in Bungahe village, Nyakabingo parish in Trai sub-county and the Kisoro district. And that's where we shall be expecting her to be laid to rest. And we also continue to also mourn with the people of Kisoro. As West Nile, we are still mourning with the people of that side, because it's really a difficult moment for them to lose their legislator. And at a time where people are planning to also really see either to allow her to continue or to tell her, you have done enough. Go rest, because we are counting down the months. But we are still saying, all in all, for those who had wanted her to go back, we still say, may her soul rest in eternal peace. May also God give you courage in these trial moments in there as we continue to mourn with you in there, because to stand in solidarity with people of Kisoro is actually something which we cannot also run away from, because at the end of the day, we're all Ugandans. And she wasn't only a leader of Kisoro, but of course a leader of Uganda. She was a national leader, and also one leader whom I must say championed also the issues of girl child education, and she was also one person who pertinently talked about issues pertaining to the girl child. And she is gone, and we expect also the issues also of girl child not to be dropped, and we expect these issues to be also going further in there. And remember, she has been also identified as a unifying factor in Kisoro district, where she was able to sort of bring the leaders of Kisoro together. And that is one thing today she will be remembered for. But then as a legislator who is still alive and who is still also really actively engaged in parliament, you should be asking yourself, by the time you're gone, how will people also really address you? How are people going to be eulogizing you? Because for her, she has been eulogized as a unifying factor. But some of these legislators really, when they're gone, I believe people will be saying, this one did this to me, and this is actually one person who did not like me. He or she chose to work with that kind of. That is quite bad. As a leader, I must say, you serve everybody. You shouldn't serve, first of all, under people who love you. You shouldn't only serve people who voted you. You shouldn't vote people who are of your tribes. You shouldn't only vote people of your religion. You must be a unifying leader. Serve everybody. And that is how, at the end of the day, people are going to be also really remembering you and also energizing you. And that's one thing also that should be going to the rest of the leaders out there to pick a leaf from and let them learn from Sarah Mateke's also legacy in there. And that's one thing where we are going to be leaving that discussion aside with as we get to move on with the show. Minister Mongi appoints new NSF board is another story that we are seeing right now, where the Minister for Gender and Labour and Social Development, that is Betty Amongi, has appointed as new board of directors and also the national security sort of members for a 3-year term that will be commencing effective of September 1st, 2024. And that is one thing which I feel we need to also talk about, because she has now officially commissioned this new board that will be serving for a period of 3 years. And that's quite good, because for this great initiative to run without members, that would be quite bad. And now Dr. David Ogong has been appointed as the new chairperson, replacing that is Peter Chimboa, on a 3-year deal also in there, where Chimboa will be running also the office, who has been running also for the office for 3 years, also now will be leaving as the permanent secretary and secretary of the treasury. Ramadan Gobi also joins the new board, and that's one thing also where he will be replacing Patrick Ochilap, while Richard Bagirwa, who joins also as workers' representatives under the National Organization of Trade Unions, will be replacing, that's Mudiba Hassan. And the minister also appointed Agri David Chibenge, representing the Minister of Gender and Labour Social Development and the NSF in there. Now, Dr. Engineer Silva Mugisha and Annette Molindwa now have also been reappointed and will also continue serving and representing employers under the Federation of Uganda Employers, and others who also got appointed under this new board are Simon Lomoki and Penina Tumwekiza, who will be representing also the workers under this new in there. And the Confederation of Free Trade Unions, Annette Birunji, also will be representing the workers under what we call Organization of Trade Unions, that's NOTU, as Patrick Ayota, the NSF Managing Director, will continue to serve as executive member of the board, and he will also be continuing also to talk about also the issues of the workers. Remember, the NSF actually plays a great role. That is in terms of solely saving for the future. That means if at all you're a worker, then your month's salaries also will be chopped and saved under the new under the NSF board. By the time you retire, then you will be getting this money in form of pensions, gratuity, and that's one thing also which I feel at the end of the day is quite good. And that means people should be also continue remitting their NSF also. At the end of the day, that's one thing also that will be a benefit to them. And addressing the new board that's at the inauguration ceremony, the Minister and Labour Social Development challenge them to also adhere to the corporate governance principles and ensure that the growth or profitability of the fund should continue. That is one thing which I feel should be also given keen attention to. And now, speaking about his appointment, Dr. Ogong pledged to ensure the track of record of exemplary leadership in there. And that's one thing also which we feel at the end of the day will be quite good. And performance of the fund over the years is maintained, and these are the commitments she maintained, and also obliged to serve the people with integrity in there, because this is a national entity that is also serving thousands and thousands of employers out there, both under government and private organizations, who continue to save their monies also for future in there. Now, the NSF Managing Director, Patrick Ayota, welcomed the new appointments and reappointments of the board members and asked them to also cooperate in doing work in there. That's something which I feel at the end of the day is quite good in there, because if at all we talk about these issues, then you will be able to realize why NSF is actually very much important. And with that story, we are going to be summarizing that story with NSF, leaving it there. And now to look at some of the stories. Minister Anita pitches to Chinese investors in renewable energy, ICT, and tourism. These are actually areas where investors could have invested and not regretted. Look at energy. We have a lot of minerals today as a country which are also really not explored to full capacity in there. Talking about minerals, we still have quite many minerals where if investors came in to invest in this country, then that would help drive the country's economy in there. Now Uganda has also drives to enhance its abundant renewable energy, took center stage also at the Wuxi conference in China, where Minister Evelyn Anite engaged high-profile Chinese energy firms, and Anite also already outlined Uganda's plans to achieve universal electrification by 2030, and a goal that requires significant investment in solar, hydropower, and wind energy as solely a form of energy for the country. And the minister also stressed that Uganda offers unique opportunities for investors to clean renewable energy, given its vast natural resources. And it's quite good, actually, for the minister to go out to China and rally those people with money to also come and invest that money in here, because as a country, definitely this would come with its own positives. And Minister stressed that Uganda offers a unique also opportunity, and Uganda is currently generating over 1,300 megawatts of electricity, with additionally that is of 1,000 also megawatts potential in large hydropower like Karuma, alongside vast also the high sunshine exposure. And the minister noted that also that Uganda's energy demand is growing by 9% per year, driven by rapid urbanization and industrialization expansions. And for Chinese investors, the renewable energy sector would offer unique opportunity for them to also enter one of Africa's largest growing markets while contributing to global carbon reduction efforts. And Uganda's government also provides favorable tariffs and long-term power purchase agreements and zero import duties. That is solely on power duties on power equipment, making it attractive also the destination to clean energy investments. And that is one thing also which the minister was able to also really rally the Chinese investors to come and invest in this country, because that would first of all increase on the revenue that government is getting, then secondly create employment opportunity for the Ugandan sons and daughters. And I need to emphasize that the partnership between Uganda and Chinese firms could serve as a model for Africa's energy transition. And one of the sectors she actually talked about is ICT, and Uganda's positioning, Uganda positioning itself as a leader in digital infrastructure. Minister Evelyn Anite quoted that Chinese investors to support nation's ambitions, that is towards ICT plans. And speaking at the Wuxi farm, Anite made also the telecommunication sector with its poised for explosive growth in what we call coming years in there, and with over 70% mobile penetration and growing demand that is for internet access. Uganda's ICT sector presents a lucrative opportunity that is for Chinese investors to provide infrastructure that will support the country's future towards the digital economy. And Anita highlighted Uganda's government focus towards modern, inclusive telecommunication infrastructure that supports e-commerce, e-governance, and as well as financial inclusion in rural areas. And today, if you look at ICT, many of the people are actually incorporated in there, and they not know that they're actually employed in the ICT sector, and that is why it becomes quite important for the Chinese government to come out and invest in this country, because if at all they did that, then that would also be a benefit for this country. And that is one thing also which I feel I need to rally out the investors out there, not only the Chinese. What about the other nations who have the capacity, who have the monies to also come out and invest in tourism, invest in ICT, invest in energy, which is really quite good in there. Not talk about tourism. You realize also really, there's a lot where I need to also highlight the potential of Uganda's tourism sector, and called on the Chinese government to also invest and tap into those opportunities in one of Africa's most breaking tourism destinations. Today you talk about Pearl of Uganda. It is actually one of those biggest tourism destinations, given the fact that we have a lot of potential tourism attraction sites and widespread across the entire country. And that will also be able to sort of attract many investors to sort of come out and invest in this country. And I feel that is quite good. If at all we attracted investors to come out and invest in this country, then that would be quite good for the country. And Uganda, known as the Pearl of Africa, Uganda offers rich wildlife, cultural heritage, and natural beauty that covers 1.5 million tourists annually, and a number of government plans to increase significantly with the high rates of investments. And I feel this is where, and one of those areas where we need to attract investors, because if at all we attract investors, and more so than Uganda, which is solely a bigger tourism destination, but remains untapped, and that would also really help develop the country and the region's investment activities. Look at the solar energy monument that is in Pakwach, a potential tourism attraction site. Look at the Pakwach Bridge itself, potential tourism attraction site. Mount Wati, potential tourism attraction site. Come to West Nile and other places, you will realize there's really a lot. River Nile actually has passed through West Nile. These are all potential tourism attraction sites. Mufta Jai Game Reserve, potential tourism site. Mirador Falls, potential tourism sites. But why don't we tap into these opportunities? Why don't we see many tourism activities taking place? That means domestic tourism is actually where we need to start first. Domestic tourism would actually play a great role in terms of doing that. That means if at all we started embarking on domestic tourism, then external tourists would actually start coming to this country, and that's where we'll be able to see the country improving in terms of tourism. And I feel Minister Anita rallying investors towards renewable energy, ICT, tourism is actually the best for this region, and I feel we need to acknowledge and also applaud her for that. And that means we also need to ask the Chinese people who are still out there to also come out and invest in this country, and that would be very much good for us as a country and as a region to develop in terms of also tourism, ICT, and renewable energy in there. And with that, we are going to be taking a short commercial break. If in case you are just joining us right now, welcome aboard. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show. In case you're watching us for the very first time, this is a show that comes every Mondays to Fridays, 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock with me, Farish Majid, where sometimes we host guests, where we discuss on issues that still happen within your communities. With that, we take a short commercial break. We bounce back shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium, Channel 259 and Channel 246. Starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and limited passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back into our last half of today's discussions. This is still KOKOLIRIKO live on West Nile TV. In case you are just joining us right now, we are left with less than 30 minutes to wind up with today's discussions that will be ushering us, of course, into the areas of news bulletin with Fete and the team. And I must say, they are already well set to actually give you what is happening in the world of news for the Lugbara speakers. And with that, I want to ask those who know the language still should be part of that. That's where they will be getting to know what is happening in West Nile sub-region, because you only find this on West Nile TV. There's nowhere you're going to find news bulletin in Lubarati. It was only on West Nile TV, and that means you should definitely be part of that. It should be also making us proud as people who speak the language. And for those who speak Alura as well, the Lembangea will be coming through at midday. That means still, if you know Alur language, this is an opportunity for you, and that means you should be in position to also be part of that news bulletin in there. That's one thing also which at the end of the day will be making you very much proud in there. And that's where we're going to leave that discussion aside with, and now to connect to also some of the stories. Earlier on, I was able to also interact with you on so many issues, and I want to ask you as the viewer now, if at all you have anything you want to say towards this issue, then you should be able to sort of share your thoughts and share your opinions with us. And I will be in position still to go through also really those issues in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside and now talk about so many issues that continue to also happen in the region. And I was able to also talk about domestic violence in the first stanza of the story. I also talked about some teachers who have been trained, where over 300 teachers are currently undergoing 10-day training. That is at National Teachers College, Muni, and ICT, which is actually one thing that we cannot hardly live without today. I really wonder how today you can really survive without ICT in this current generation in there. And that's one thing also which I feel at the end of the day is quite good. And with that, we are going to be leaving the discussion aside with. And now as we get moving the show, and Education Ministry upholds ban on mobile phones in schools is one story that we need to also start with our discussion this morning, where the Ministry of Education and Sports will continue to also hold the ban of learners not allowed to also use computers and mobile phones in schools. And this is quite good. But really today we are talking about the competence-based learning that would also be a point where our learners will be also marking also a year also in terms of using mobile phones. And now on the 24th of August this year, the Education Ministry announced launch of digital agenda strategy intended to also allow use of laptops, smartphones, tablets, and other ICT deliveries in primary schools and secondary schools. However, as Nobata Tukunda reports, concerns by also the proprietors of the schools have also forced Education Ministry to reverse its move, because that would be very much bad, because many people are saying it would actually promote pornography, and that's why they are not allowed to also be with phones in schools. And that's where we now are getting connected to Alfred Jawok to give us an update with what's happening in the Greater Alur sub-region, and he will be giving us an update on the electricity, which we are now also seeing. But I'm also tapping that. But before that, let me first get his input in this topic we are discussing this morning. Alfred, good morning.
Good morning, Faris Majid. Good morning to all our viewers. Good morning to West Nilers. Yes,
earlier you find me discussing about the issue of ban of mobile phones in schools. What's your say on that? What could be your stake?
I don't believe in it and I don't support it.
So you want government to allow smartphones be used in schools? Is that what you're trying to say?
Sometimes it can be good, but also it will also give negative results, because the learners may misuse these phones for their maybe own interest.
Okay. What interest are you talking about here? We need to understand your interests.
And Faris Majid, you know, a student to use a phone, indeed it might be good for maybe doing research and the other one, but also a student or a learner may also misuse the phone, maybe connecting to his or her boyfriend. That's why I don't support it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's your opinion. And now,
this is my opinion.
Okay, that is quite good, and we also really appreciate it. But so we need to understand, it is now almost a month when the government commissioned the National Grid Connection. How is it faring in the Greater Alur sub-region? How are the businesses booming?
Yeah, indeed, Faris Majid, I want to report to you that the stable power supply from the National Grid in West Nile region has brought positive changes and economic progress to the power consumers, more so in Nebi, in Greater Nebi. When I talk about Greater Nebi, I mean Nebi, Zombo, and Pakwat. You know, in Greater Nebi, we have factories and we have big entities, whereby notably we have Uyuma General Stores, which produces wine in large quantity. We also have Okoro, Coffee Growers Corporation. We also have fuel stations, and notably Rock Global Oil, Uganda Limited, JK, OB, and the rest. And remember President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on the 3rd of August 2024 commissioned the newly constructed Kole Oloyonebi and Arua transmission line. And this connects West Nile region to the national grid. And also yesterday I took my time, I moved to some of the business men and women, and also I visited a man doing his carpentry work, and he revealed that though the power is stable, but the cost is too much.
So what are they saying in relation to the cost of power?
Because they said initially, if someone maybe loaded a unit of 10,000, someone can make like 20,000. But nowadays, if you load like a unit of 5,000, you cannot even make 15,000. And I realized this is now national. The other one, we were not yet connected to the national grid. We are now the same like people in Kampala, right?
Yes.
So the cost is not the same like it used to be.
Okay.
And also I talked to Bob Yuma, as I did mention, the proprietor of Yuma General Store in Nebi district, that is Parombo. He said the power is reliable enough as compared to the previous power from Nyagak power stations. And also, his business was at stake due to unstable power supplies because they are now running three-phase connections. And that's what he told me. Okay. And also under Kumajit, the same representative of Global Oil Uganda Limited, he realized that connecting West Nile region to the national grid has come timely to boost businesses in Greater Nebi. And also I talked to one person in Pakwat district. You know, Pakwat has a ginnery, cotton ginnery. And he said they are now stable with power and they can run their machines 24/7, unlike in the past. Okay. Yes.
So meaning businesses are now thriving, except with the concern of power. Except
with the stability of the power.
Okay, now the concern remains the prices of the units?
The unit is now the major challenge people are facing.
Okay. What about the connectivity? What about the connectivity? Because government today has a program of connecting homesteads at about some few meters to have also the connections. That's the national grid. How are people embracing that exercise?
I visited the office of Wendeko in Paida, Nebi, and Pakwat. Very many people have applied and they are still waiting for the approval to be connected. And others have filled the forms so that they can be connected. And you know, using power, and if maybe you're very far from the poles, you pay much money. And if you are very near, like in some meters, as per the Wendeko, you can be freely connected. Yes.
Okay, so what else is happening that side?
Auntie, as far as Majid, I want to report to you that right now in Nebi district, the security team in Nebi district cracked down on money lenders using national IDs as bilateral. And this security team in Nebi district, I talked to Robert about the RDC. He has issued strict guidelines to financial money lenders who are using national IDs as guarantor. And according to the security, this has become a culture of exploitation where the vulnerable individuals, especially business fraternity, suffers a lot. And also is concerned about the station And also, he said they must protect the citizens.
Okay.
And when you look at your neighbor, even in Arua City, you have these short-term money lenders, they're there. And they also pick national IDs, they keep it.
You know,
and if
the question really I'm asking myself is, government is saying that national ID should not be used as collateral for acquiring these loans. But where does this put those people who issue these loans? Because to have a national ID, it will be the easiest point of tracking a person more so when it comes to soft loans or what we call these small loans. Where will this put those people who are also to do the work of lending money? What are they saying?
I talked to one of them, one of the money lenders in Pakwash district. I talked to her and she said the reason why they are picking the national IDs, someone after getting the loan, he or she disappears. And if your national ID is detained, because national ID in Uganda today is very important, you just go and you think about it and you refund the money. But they used not to fix the national IDs, but of late, when people get the loan, they disappear. And that national ID, because government programs also, you need to have national ID. It will take you back to them to pay their money and have your national ID.
Okay.
Yes, and also SSP Silver Koibi, the deputy senator, they noted that this will, and also these staples businesses, and also prevent sabotage the government programs like PDM, as I did mention, and yoga, because if you want PDM money, you need to have your national ID for verification. And many people, their IDs are not with them in Greater Navy, and people are suffering.
Okay.
If you want maybe to go and get to get enrolled in government programs, you don't have ID, it's now a problem to you. Away from that, Faris Majid, yesterday a training by Minister of Land, Housing and Urban Development had election here in Nebi municipality where Vincent Okaba has been elected as chairperson Municipal Development Forum. This is an initiative developed by Minister of Land, Housing and Urban Development to see that the municipality is developed, to see that the people of the municipality are developed to an extent that they can do their businesses very well. And yesterday, the training started yesterday, and also today, so the president, Uganda Municipal Development Forum for Nebi municipality, it will also develop the area. And also, we did see the business fraternity have been tipped on how to have buildings which are recommended by the municipality. When you move around, we have very many buildings here which is not recommended. More so away from the municipality, the town area, when you move ahead, like Nyachara, Uchegu, they still have the buildings which are not recommended by the physical planner municipality.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's something coming up shortly. I want to sort of maybe have your input on. We are expecting the members of parliament to come for games at Greenlight anytime from now. I don't know how ready our MPs are and what our people should be able to tell these MPs when it comes to issues affecting West Nile sub-region. As you're moving the grassroots, what are some of those concerns which the locals continue telling you that needs to be addressed?
First, Majid, I want to tell you, I had an engagement with one of the members of parliament from Greater Navy, whereby I'm still working on this story. I asked her whether the regional city has solved some of the challenges, more so in Greater Navy. That area member of parliament declined to speak to us.
Okay.
And also I hope with their coming, maybe for the ball game you're trying to say, people may expect not only the game, but they will expect their coming to bring a change in service delivery. Yes.
So what are those areas where people feel needs to be improved on?
Faris Majid, the issue is all about the road.
Okay.
Yesterday we received a heavy downpour here, and in this morning, trucks are packed right from Nebi Hospital up to Jukia Hill. So this is the major issue. I think these people may need their answers on them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Alfred, for your time. We are running out of time. We just left with about 10 minutes to wind up with the discussion. Maybe your final say.
My final say, I want to in a special way, to thank you, Faris Majid, to thank Madam Daisy, Madam Mary, the senior, and all the team, all our viewers. May God bless you.
All right. Thank you so much, Alfred. Though there's one person whom you have forgotten, I hope next time you won't forget her. Goodbye. Anyway, that is Alfred Jawok, one of our correspondents from the Greater Nebi, and our chief Biriu from that side, Indian. He was able to sort of give us an update in relation to what is making rounds in the Greater Nebi sub-region India. That's something which I feel at the end of the day must also really be addressed on. And that's one thing which I feel we must also really talk about. And earlier on, before being connected, I was talking about the ban which has been maintained by the Ministry of Education to also really, ban the usage of smartphones and tablets in schools because of its negative repercussions. Now the Democratic Party has also come out to also really say that allowing mobile phones in schools will also risk fueling pornography among the pupils and the students. And now the new policy permitting the use of laptops, smartphones, tablets, and other ICT devices in primary and secondary schools was announced by the Ministry of Education, that's Minister Janet Katara Museveni, last Thursday while launching the Education Digital Agenda, a new policy. But now we have seen the ministry also coming up to halt this, and that means people are still not going to be allowed to carry smartphones in primary level. That means for secondary level also still, smartphones are still going to be called what is not allowed gadgets. And that is where we're also going to be seeing teachers still continue arresting these things, because really some schools I went to for you to be caught with the phone, it was actually a criminal activity that also led to suspension and dismissal from school. That means this will still continue, and that means you as learner out there, just have it in mind that you are not allowed to carry gadgets to schools. And Mwesiga was at media at Bulintuma National Campaign Headquarters, Mengo, Kampala, argued that mobile phones provide access to pornography, which can be devastating impact, which can have devastating impacts on the young children and mind. And that's according to the Democratic Party. But as a viewer, what do you think about that? What do you definitely think about this move also to not to allow government to have mobile phones in schools? You can share your thoughts with us on our comment section. For those of you watching us via Facebook, drop the comments in there. For those of you via YouTube, still you can be in position to share your thoughts with us. And I will be in position to still go through those comments later on as we get moving with the show. We just left about 8 minutes to wind up, of course, with today's discussion, but we still have lots more prepared for you to solely share with you in there, and that is where we need to solely talk about. And now there's this developing story where we did see recently URA was also making a proposal to collect the school fees of learners. That is through the IFRI system, where the money will be passing through URA, and this is also in recent times where the government has proposed extending the practice of having tuition for public schools directly collected by URA under the IFRI system. But now many stakeholders have actually raised issues about that, but that is something where we shall be having a discussion comprehensively in the coming days in there. Now Chambago students are protesting a 50% increment of tuition, and that is another story that we are seeing right now. And the section of students from Chambago University have vowed to continue with the demonstration over what they call unfair tuition increment, and one of the consequences that sort of would happen to them, and that's where they're now feeling very much bad. But the Kampala Metropolitan Deputy Spokesperson, that's Luka Wechire, said he will consult and get back also and provide information on the arrests being made also by press time, because we have sad stories of a number of these learners now being arrested who are also protesting. That is also the increment of about 50% tuition. In another university principal public relations officer, Ruben Tunomu Jr. also said the strike is motivated by students who want to engage in politics, who are the ones fighting. And his remarks already were incidentally by University Vice Chancellor Professor Eric Kanduguga, while appearing also on interview on Monday, that also was asked students to stay away from the protest. and those who also engage in this will be punished. And they say also the increment also was passed in April 2024 and communicated to students, and that is one thing also which I feel I didn't talk about, because if you talk about the issues of increment of fees, definitely this also has its own negative repercussions, not only on the students, but the parents who are there to ensure that these learners go through school. And that is one thing which at the end of the day may make many people feel very much bad. And that's one thing also which we feel should be not given, also left out in there. That's why we're going to be leaving the story and to summarize the entire discussion with what's happening in the world of sports. Yesterday also on a sad note, we received the shocking news of the death of the killer who is sort of alleged to have killed the Ugandan athlete Cheptegei, according to information from the hospital. And remember, this incident happened on Kenya September 10th, where the man also accused of dosing petrol in setting also the life also Rebecca Cheptegei, who died also after sustaining injuries from burns. Also died in now the photo left the Ugandan athlete dead, and many people also have been raising issues about this, and many also called for justice for this Ugandan athlete. But on a sad note, the alleged killer also passed on, and that's one thing we did see, where the Cheptegei, who completed the marathons, the Paris Olympics, suffered burns only after being poured petrol by also the alleged boyfriend. Now the former boyfriend, identified in names of Dixon Ndima Marangaka, died also yesterday, and that is one thing also we did see, and that's also where we did also see information coming out, and many people also have raised concerns about that, and that speaks also volumes about gender-based violence. And earlier on I was able to also talk about gender-based violence, because today many people also have been going through gender-based violence, but many do not know what to do and where to go necessarily when they are also being affected by this information. And that's where we're going to leave the discussion aside with. Also, before we move on, remember over this weekend we shall be seeing the sometimes Uganda Premier League returning, where we shall be seeing also the teams competing at our top player league. Also very, very much starting it out. But before that, the Nations Leagues are already going on. I mean, the African Nations qualifications. And yesterday we were able to also see games going on between Gabon and also Central African Republic, where Gabon was able to beat Central African Republic by 2-0, and Botswana also lost 4-0 to Egypt. And we were able to see Cape Verde going to beat Mauritania by 1-0. And of course, very many games also as well happened. And Rwanda was held to a goalless draw by Nigeria. Benin also lost that to Libya by 1-0. Liberia lost to Algeria by 3-0. Chad also played a goalless draw with also Ivory Coast. Zambia played the 1-1 draw with Sierra Leone. And of course, Guinea was able to also lose that to Tanzania by 2-1. Eswatini lost to Mali by 1-0. Mozambique was able to beat Guinea-Bissau by 2-1. Namibia lost, that is to Kenya, by 2-1. Zimbabwe, as well as was held to a goalless draw by Cameroon. And South Sudan lost to South Africa by 3-2, and a goal which I must say came in the last minutes of the game. And many people had actually thought South Sudan had already sealed this point, but unfortunately they lost also in the last minutes. That means Uganda and that group remains on top of the log, and South Africa comes in second place by a difference of goals, and South Sudan still remains in the last gap as Central African Republic, and Congo Brazzaville also comes in third place in there. That's how the log is standing. That means Uganda still will be playing South Sudan in the coming days, and we hope Uganda this time round will be qualifying for the AFCON also coming in the coming years in there. That's one thing also where we are going to leave that discussion aside with. And I hope as the viewer, you had a wonderful time with us right from the time we began until this hour of the morning. I say thank you so much, asante sana, and we'll link up again tomorrow, as I will be leaving now the news room. That's for elders also to come through with Fete Manuel to also give you what's happening in the world of news. And with that, I want to ask the people who speak Lubarati to also be part of this. Aniel Amad Lubarati Mia Idradria. Ewa zaluba tisirifezoni feta invite vila kuwa renemu ledi ani rdivini mumidri ola zati ola za luba tisirifele ma paudo asani